This message comes from Capital One. The Capital One Venture X business card earns unlimited double miles on every purchase. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Terms and conditions apply. Find out more at CapitalOne.com/VentureXBusiness.
Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. This week, we're connecting the dots between Hollywood, Vatican City, and Lampedusa. I know. How are all of these places connected? Well, we're going to find out with NPR's religion correspondent, Jason DeRose, and the LAist's Antonia Cereijo. Jason, Antonia, welcome to It's Been a Minute.
Hello.
Thanks so much for having us.
All right, so I got a question. If you were a cardinal in the Vatican right now, would you be one of the chain vapors, like everyone's third favorite cardinal from the 2024 film Conclave? Would you be chain vaping right now in the Vatican?
Jason, would you?
I would not be.
I love that principled answer. What about you, Antonia?
I've never vaped, but I feel like it looks cool when the cardinals do it, so maybe I'd be compelled by the vibe.
I was a definite yes. I actually don't vape myself at this point in my life. If I was doing something that consequential, I could see myself getting a little jewel. That's just my opinion. Now, I will say, I loved the scenes of any cardinal vaping in the Academy Award-winning film Conclave. It follows a fictional portrayal of the Papal Conclave following the sudden death of a fictional pope. Sound familiar? And during this process, the cardinals, they get a little messy as they form political factions and jockey for votes to become the next pontiff. Well, we are about to see that same process play out next week as the world's cardinals converge on Vatican City. And there is quite a bit at stake here because these men are going to ultimately decide the ideological direction of a church with 1.4 billion followers globally. So that has me wondering, what are the current factions within the Catholic Church? How will Pope Francis's legacy impact the upcoming conclave? And what should we make of Catholicism's broader cultural influence right now? I know, Jason, that you have seen the movie Conclave, like many of us have, but you are somebody that covers this stuff hard by. You are in Rome right now, okay? So I want to hear the real from you. How exactly does the conclave work?
Well, after a pope dies, within 15 to 20 days, the eligible cardinals, which means any cardinal from around the world who is under the age of 80, comes to Rome. And they're having meetings right now, in fact, this week and early next week, where they're discussing all of the issues facing the church. And then next week, they will go to Mass. They will process into the Sistine Chapel. Somebody will say, "Get out if you're not a cardinal," and they will lock them in. Only the eligible cardinals can be in there, and they will start voting.
Wow, okay. So what does the actual voting process look like?
So these cardinal electors will, on a ballot, a piece of paper, write down the name of the person they want to be pope. And then one at a time, they will walk up to the table at the front of the Sistine Chapel. They will put that piece of paper on a small plate. They will, with that plate, drop the piece of paper, the ballot, into a big chalice. Ooh. And then after all of the electors have done that, they will draw the names out one at a time. And there will be three people sitting at that table. The first cardinal will read the name to himself. The next cardinal will read the name to himself. And the next cardinal will read the name aloud. So that they have three people confirming that that's what that name is.
I like that.
And then the last person who reads it aloud will, with a needle, pierce the ballot and string it up. This is so that there aren't double votes. So it's this very ceremonial tradition of how the vote happens. And it's completely secret. In fact, the cardinals are asked to maybe disguise your handwriting. Although I don't know how you would know anybody else's handwriting. There are 133 of them. And I don't know how you could recognize that many people's handwriting.
I was going to say, I feel like in this conclave, too, many of them have never even met. I don't know if I could recognize the handwriting of a complete stranger from 100-something other people.
It's interesting that you say they've not met because, Francis appointed so many of them. And they're from all over the world, and they don't get together like weekly to meet each other and examine each other's handwriting. They get together once in a while.
Yeah, I read that they used to meet like twice yearly or something like that. And even that hasn't happened in a while. So this is going to be a good mix. How have you all seen people, or the public at large in general, kind of attach to or talk about these papabiles, these possible popes?
Well, I'm here in Los Angeles, so there's a big Filipino community, and they are so excited about the potential of a Filipino pope, which has been really fun to witness. I'm very curious to see if there will be the continuation of bringing a pope from a different part of the world into that position of power, because I think that was a very interesting dynamic this time around, and it would be really cool to see what happens if there's an Asian pope next.
Yeah. Jason, what are you hearing? You're in Rome right now. You're on the ground. What have you observed?
I got on a plane as soon as the Pope died, so I don't know what people are saying in the United States. I know what people in Rome are saying. And every Italian that I talk to says it's time to have an Italian Pope again. They just every cab driver, every server in a restaurant, everybody, every salesperson that I've just chatted with says it's time for an Italian Pope again.
I mean, I could see a little hometown bias in that, for sure. As I was researching, I had a whole list. I was starting with like 25, 30 names, and I was like whittling it down.
I'm imagining you like Claire Danes in Homeland, like the full, the full board, like some strings
Literally
connected. Yeah.
I want to reflect a little bit before we get into this upcoming conclave. I want to reflect a little bit on Pope Francis's papacy. What was his influence on the church, and how will he be remembered? I want to start with you, Antonia, on this, and then go to you, Jason.
Well, my interest in the Pope really comes from being an Argentine American. For us, the Pope became the biggest icon and symbol from Argentina, even bigger than Maradona and Lionel Messi, which was...
I mean, they're massive. Yeah.
We couldn't believe it. But to me, I think of this moment where I actually saw the Pope in 2016. He did a ride through in Central Park. I felt like I was in Beatlemania or something. And it was like people were going nuts. And I remember there was like a little Snapchat filter that had like the little Pope mobile in the bottom. And I think the thing that has been so interesting about this Pope is that he has this influence beyond the church in terms of becoming both a political global figure and also sort of a pop culture figure. Like, I think in the same way people talked about Obama being the first internet president, feels like this was the first internet pope. There were so many Pope memes. The famous AI image of the Pope, the first AI image.
Hard, like Montclair-esque winter coat that was clearly AI generated, but I wanted one.
I was tricked. I thought it was real, and I was really into it. But I still love the image. I think it's incredible. He was the first Latin American Pope. And I think that for Latin Americans, it was a really big deal to see someone from the area become a world's leader. And I think a lot of his perspective was shaped very much by his experience in Argentina and seeing a lot of migrants who went through very difficult moments of government repression in the 80s. And I think that while at the beginning, at least a lot of progressives in Argentina were sort of nervous about him being the Pope, once we started to see what values he was espousing as the Pope, a lot of people changed their tune and became very excited about him. And I'm very excited to know more about what Jason thinks about how he influenced the church specifically.
Yeah, Jason, please.
Well, I would say that his legacy falls into a few areas. This is not meant to be a comprehensive list. I would say real openness to dialogue over the last few years. There was this almost several years long conversation, which was called a synod on synodality, which basically meant the church talking to itself about how it wanted to be the church together. The Pope wanted to have a conversation that said, I want to hear what people in the pews in, Cleveland, Ohio, are saying about what the church should look like in the future. And then I think that there are a few issues that were sort of the big issues in his papacy that will probably, 50 years down the road, people might still talk about. And I would say his real attention to migrants and poverty. His first trip was to this island, Lampedusa, which is an Italian island off the coast of North Africa, because it was where migrants, refugees, were floating to on rafts and boats.
Wow.
And so he really wanted to be present with them and say, the church sees you and hears you. So I would say migrants, a very big issue for him. Also the environment. He issued 2 letters about the environment. In a certain way that did upset some Catholics who say live in coal country or oil country, whose whole economy is based on fossil fuels.
Yeah.
He appointed a huge number of women to various committees throughout the church. And the final issue that I'll raise is LGBTQ issues, which, the Pope did not change official church teaching. Same-sex sexual activity is still a sin within the Catholic Church. And the church teaches that same-sex sexual attraction is objectively disordered. And that's their phrase, quote unquote, objectively disordered. But he did allow for priests to bless people in same-sex relationships.
And that seems like a significant move.
That was a huge move. I was, in fact, in Tel Aviv covering the war in Gaza. And when that happened, and I had to get on the line and do a live conversation with All Things Considered, hoping that the air raid sirens weren't going to go off.
Oh my gosh. But one of the things that was so interesting is that even though Pope Francis became something of a political figure, there's not really a clear-cut way of thinking about the various political positions of these various cardinals. And so I wonder, if the new pope were to be more conservative than Pope Francis, how would that affect the global culture around Catholicism? And is that even the right way to think about all of this?
Something that's been so interesting, and Brittany, you and I talked about this because neither you nor I were raised Catholic, is I thought I would just care about Pope Francis because I'm Argentinian and then sort of move on. And I was surprised how invested I feel in this next conclave. And I think it's a combination of one, maybe it is just the movie made it feel more accessible. And now there's all these theories on YouTube and TikTok and Steve Kornacki at MSNBC in front of the board, doing this as if he's doing his election coverage. So it just feels like there's a lot of brouhaha around it. But also that it feels like this is a very particular moment in geopolitics, and that the Pope seemed to be this sort of counter figure to a lot of the rising right-wing movements globally. And I think that for a lot of people on the left, they see him as sort of this last great global leader on these issues. And so there's a lot of anxiety around that, and wondering if the Catholic Church is going to continue to be a symbol against those right-wing movements.
Yeah, even that when you consider the acrimonious relationship between, say, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and the Pope had some pretty strong words for J.D. Vance, who is a Catholic, shortly before he passed away. Some people have made humorous remarks, trying to insinuate that J.D. Vance upset the Pope so that he simply could not go on living. But yeah, you summed up a lot of the reasons why I have become, conclave-pilled, as some people have been saying.
Well, he has the power to draw the attention of the world to the things that he cares about. And so if you can draw the eyes and ears of the world to migrants, to the environment, to the role of women, to LGBTQ issues, that wields huge power.
I got one last question. Jason, your editor, Daniel Burke, mentioned that the cardinals are essentially picking their boss, which kind of blew my mind when he brought that up, because most people don't have the opportunity to do that at their jobs. So why is it helpful to think about this conclave as a workplace saga? I'm wondering. I'd love to hear from both of you on this.
The thing that comes up for me in thinking about this is often we don't think about our bosses as the word humility doesn't come up necessarily, when it's somebody telling you what to do. And I think one of the things that so many people described Pope Francis's leadership as humble, that he was very humble in how he presented his ideas. And I think that's also a huge contrast with a lot of other world leaders, the idea of espousing humility, not having all the answers, giving others a lot of agency in terms of directing decisions for their own lives.
I think if you think about, he had a great focus on the idea of being a pastor, a shepherd. The word pastor and shepherd are related etymologically. And if you think of being in the field with your flock, well, there are certain kinds of bosses that are in the field with their flock who know how to do everything because perhaps they work their way up like Francis did.
That's kind of sick. I'm kind of into that, actually. I'm maybe we need a conclave at more workplaces and see who survives. Maybe that's the key. Oh, so well, funny. Jason, Antonia, I have learned so much here. Thank you both so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much.
And as a thank you, I'd like to teach you something by playing a game with you all. Can you stick around for a tiny bit longer?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous.
I am so nervous.
Listen, the game is a blast. Okay.
Okay.
We'll be right back with a little game I like to call, But Did You Know? Stick around.
This message comes from Charles Schwab. When it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices, like full-service wealth management and advice when you need it. You can also invest on your own and trade on Thinkorswim. Visit schwab.com to learn more. Support for NPR and the following message come from Betterment, the automated investing and savings app. CEO Sarah Levy shares how Betterment utilizes tech tools powered by human advice.
Betterment is here to help customers build wealth their way. And we provide powerful technology and complete human support where technology can deliver ease of use and affordability, and the people behind that technology can provide advice and guidance.
Learn more at Betterment.com. Investing involves risk. Performance not guaranteed.
This message comes from Amazon. Have you ever been so sick that even the thought of standing up to go to the doctor made you even more sick? Amazon One Medical has 24/7 virtual care so you can get help while horizontal. And with Amazon Pharmacy, you can get medicine delivered fast right to your door. You just have to make it to your door. Thanks to Amazon, healthcare just got less painful. This message comes from Bluehost. Bluehost can make building a great website easy and offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. Customize and launch your site in minutes with AI, then optimize with built-in search engine tools. Get your great site at Bluehost.com.
All right. We are going to play a little game I like to call, But Did You Know? Here's how it works. I'm going to share a story that's been making headlines this week, and as I give you some background on the story, I'll also ask you trivia related to it. But don't worry, it's all multiple choice, so the right answer is in there somewhere. And the first one to blurt out the right answer gets a point. Person with the most points wins, and their prize is bragging rights. Are y'all ready?
Yes. Okay, yeah.
I'm ready.
All right. Well, we are going to stick with our papal theme and quiz you two on your knowledge of fun facts about popes in history.
Oh my God, Jason's going to completely demolish me. This is so not
okay.
fair. Okay.
You never know. First question is, at 88 years old, Pope Francis was the second oldest pope in history. What age was the oldest to have ever served? Was it A, 90, B, 93 years old, or C, 96 years old?
B.
Antonia says B. What say you, Jason?
I think it'd be.
Okay. Well, Antonia, good job on that one. The answer is B. You were technically both right, but Antonia, you were first, so you get the point. Pope Leo XIII reigned for over 25 years and died at age 93 on July 20th, 1903. He's known for his intellectual spirit and his openness to more secular and scientific ideas compared to previous pontiffs. So there you go.
Good to know.
All right. Question number 2. Pope Leo XIII's 25 years as pope made him the 4th longest serving pope of all time. Pope Urban VII is famous for having the shortest reign ever. How many calendar days was his papacy? Was it A, 5 days, B, 10 days, or C, 12 days?
I think A.
I'm going to go C.
Wow. The answer is C, 12 days.
Wow.
Pope Urban VII was elected pope on September 15th, 1590, but unfortunately died 12 days later on September 27th at the age of 69 due to malaria.
Oh my God.
R.I.P.
Tragic ending.
R.I.P. All right. Well, to recap the score, Antonia, you are at 2 points.
Wow.
Jason, you are at 0 points.
It's not right. It's not right.
is so
Jason knows so
humiliating.
much more.
This is so humiliating.
No. All right. So something that I like to do to shake it up. So third question is going to be winner takes all. Okay.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Okay. Pope Leo X was one of the most lavish popes in history, known for his spending on the arts, charities, his friends, and even himself. Oh, I wish I could have been his friend. He sounds fab. He even managed to spend all the treasures of the previous pope, driving the papacy into debt.
No.
I know. Diva down. What powerful, wealthy family was Pope Leo X a member of? Was it A, the House of Borgia, B, the House of Habsburg, or C, the House of Medici?
Medici.
C.
Jason, by a razor-thin edge, okay? The answer is C, House of Medici. Pope Leo X wasn't the only Medici to hold the papacy. The wealthy European family produced 3 other popes in Pope Clement VII, Pope Pius IV, and Pope Leo XI. Jason, I feel like it's the end of the Super Bowl. You just won the ring. I'm stunned. I'm stunned right now. Stunned. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, that's it but did you know for this week? Congratulations to Jason on your win.
Congrats.
Holding
Congrats.
it down.
Oh, thank you. I will now have bragging rights.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Jason, Antonia, thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was NPR's religion correspondent, Jason DeRose, and the host of LAist's Imperfect Paradise, Antonia Cerejido. This episode of It's Been a Minute was produced by
Corey Bridges.
This episode was edited by
Nina Patak.
Our executive producer is
Barton Girdwood.
Verilyn Williams.
Our VP of programming is
Yolanda Sanguini.
All right, that's all for this episode of It's Been a Minute from NPR. I'm Brittany Luce. Talk soon.
This message comes from Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile took what's wrong with wireless and made it right. They offer premium wireless plans for less, and all plans include high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and nationwide coverage. See for yourself at mintmobile.com/switch. This message comes from Warby Parker. Prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Glasses designed in-house from premium materials starting at just $95, including prescription lenses. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you. This message comes from eBay. Swapping out your tires? There's nothing like it. With eBay, you find the feel you're looking for, from smooth highway rides to grip for rough terrain. Get all the tires you need at prices you'll love. eBay. Things people love.